All right, guys, let's get started. Let me get back to my notes. So hello, everyone. My name is Bilal. I'm the founder of Paris Lab. We're an accelerator and an investor based out of Paris, and I'll be moderating this panel. My fellow panelists, some of them maybe you don't need introduction, but let's go through them again. Mo from Animoca, head of tokenomics. Dim from ApeCoinDAO. Thanks for being here. And Sami, who just launched their CTA token most recently from Cross the Ages. Thanks, guys. So let's get directly into it. I was a little bit struggling preparing this panel, but the first thing that came to mind while preparing it is, let's start by a statistic. Between 2021 and today, more than 80% of the gaming projects doesn't exist anymore. What are they missing? And I think this panel is very important. Even me, I was struggling making the question, so we'll debunk as we go. But I think let's try to look back at what we've seen and share with the audience some keys on the right monetization strategies. So the first idea I wanted us to kind of wrap our minds around is, what is your take, guys, on, and we'll get back to the statistics at the end, what is your take on the first way for games to monetize, which is selling NFT drops? We've seen more recently than some of the projects have been trying to do play to mint, so that there is only value creation for the users, but you lose the monetization. And we've also seen some more exotic growth hacking techniques, like what was this one? The type to earn with pixel art, for example. So please, guys, share me some of your takes on that.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be with you. This panel is like really interesting. To start with the first information, as Bilal was saying, you have like more than 2,800 projects was released since 2021. And like most of them like disappear. They disappear because like we didn't find the real model economic, and like we're just doing iteration by iteration. If we take, for example, the Web 2, they created game, and the Web 3 is just copy and paste. Some game used to work on the Web 2. We didn't have like an experience where like we can say, oh wow, this is like completely new. Like we're not able, today to say that what we building is sustainable for the long term. And the thing is like it's a lot of hype, behind the project. It's always going up and like complicated, to stabilize, and then it's going down. And like it's almost, like what's happened for more than like a lot of the project. So when you're not sustainable, when you don't generate money, when you're not able, to get back this revenue, you can't pay the people, and like your project disappear. So this is like more or less what's happened. I don't know if you agree or not.
I agree. I can maybe add on that attention span. Attention span during a bull market is actually maybe a bit higher than during a bear market. But during a bear market, what's very important, if your game doesn't have fun mechanics, because fun is a criteria that is missing on a lot of games, you will end up playing a game that is not fun. You're just grinding it to get some points, to get some coins or something like that. And then the new shiny objects will come out the week after, and it's very hard to have like real retention methods for the players. So this is actually one of the issue that is sometimes solved with great IPs, and when actually user can leverage their own IPs. But this is one of the big issue that we see. I'm all about fun in Web3 gaming, and yeah, it's sad to see that at the moment there's a lot of games out here with great metrics, but the metrics are actually just there because people are grinding and not having fun. Actually, it's like being shackled to a game that you don't like, but you just hope to make some money.
I completely agree. I think there's a number of different reasons why, and if we really zoom out and understand that there was a lack of knowledge from a lot of first-time founders in Web3, specifically around treasury management, where maybe they were raising $3, $4, $5, $6, $7 million in Ethereum, in Solana. And when the bear side of the cycle kicks in, you're down 50, 60, 70%. That's your runway down 70%, which means if you had a runway for a year or two, you're not down to 6 months. So there are aspects like that which founders didn't take into account. I think the gaming narrative really blew up with Axie. So a lot of founders who had launched NFT projects across the space all of a sudden decided gaming's a hot narrative, let's build a game. But to build a game that's sustainable, that's going to have user acquisition, which will eventually lead to monetization, is very challenging. So doing that without the right experience was, you can argue, a reason why a number of projects died as well. So I'll probably keep it at that for now, and we'll eventually jump into monetization soon. But normally monetization, it's for you to monetize in a sustainable manner, there needs to be critical mass within an ecosystem. And that doesn't exist in the majority of ecosystems right now in the Web3 space. So it's something we're building towards. But what Web3 enables us to do is to build alongside your community via having NFTs, via having fungible tokens, allowing this idea of co-ownership to come into an ecosystem and build alongside your community, give them a voice, if it's via a DAO, for example. So there are different ways we can begin to monetize in an innovative way that may be slightly different from the pre-existing ways of Web2.
Well, so if we break down the classical monetization in gaming, you have the primary market selling the items, the royalty that you collect on the secondary market, and the in-game transaction that you hope to create this in-game monetization circle. So let's get on the first primary market monetization. What's your take? Does the project should do NFT drops and have paying customer? And we've seen some other stats actually have been shown that most of the people that buys NFT are still players after 90 days. So that's a very important KPI. But when you do that, then there might be some value loss for the NFT holders. Whereas the play to mint only incentivizes people to try the game, not necessarily spend. So the company lose here, but at least there's only value creation because the NFT has a value and they got it for free. How should the project balance those two?
I mean, it's really who's your audience. If your audience is Web 2 and Web 3, you have to have two different monetization plans. And building in Web 2.5, Web 2.5 doesn't exist from a user-based standpoint. The majority of users are in Web 2, and the few of us that are lucky to be in Web 3 are in Web 3. So you have very different monetization strategies for both. In the same way you'd have live ops for your monetization Web 2, you have live ops for your token economy as well, once it's live in Web 3. And the mechanics are very different. So you were speaking about monetization in terms of ad revenue, for example. In Web 2, that doesn't work in Web 3. Monetization Web 3 is very different because it's about onboarding builders to build alongside you. To your point, loyalty in Web 3 is a lot higher. The customer acquisition, well, the CAC customer acquisition cost is a lot higher, but the lifetime value of that user who then becomes a community member coming in, it changes the value proposition of how we think about monetization. But that doesn't mean there is a massive audience that exists in Web 2. They don't need anything different yet. But we have to figure out Web 3, build simultaneously, and eventually, with the right education, they will meet in the middle. But two different strategies for me.
To give you a quick example, what we've seen, because we launched Cross the Ages in mobile, so it's a free-to-play. We have today more or less 18 to 20,000 daily user, 150 monthly user, and we are a real mix, this hybrid system from people from Web 2 and people from Web 3. And when we see like how much every people are spending, the average for people from Web 2 is around like $15 per month, and the average from people from the Web 2 is around 180. So like you see, like the difference is completely insane. We have like a lot of people coming from the Web 2, and what we try to do is to avoid this word of Web 2 and Web 3. Just stop to talk about that. Talk about the game and about the ownership. And what we've seen is we have 25,000 people owner of NFT. So we sold like 41 million cards digital, and 4 million are NFT today. So like it's like a rate of 10% of conversion of the asset. And what we've seen is very interesting. We have 25,000 owner of NFT. On these 25,000 owner of NFT, for half of them, it's the first time that they become owner of NFT. They never get any kind of NFT before the experience of Cross the Ages. What we try to do, and I say try to do, it's to create an experience where you never feel that it's a Web3 experience. We give you a wallet, you just have to click on a button. You don't have to burn nothing. And you just see that your assets become yours. It's like digital. You spend $1. It's like you're using the CTA token. Absolutely everything is behind you. You don't see everything, and you create an experience like that. We think that we probably found like one way, but like it's not enough because like the market is still young. We will see like with the time if we are able, you know, to continue to grow up. But like I was talking, you know, with Bilal, the reality is like you have like a kind of limit, you know, like I didn't see, you know, like the 100,000, 200,000 player for a long term, not talking about like few weeks or for hype because like you launch a token, like for more than 2 years, people are just staying, having fun. When we talk about having fun, it's nice, you know, on the fact, having fun. But like in real, is it really fun, you know? Because like the mechanic that we create is completely different. You know, I come from the Web 2. I spent 14 years of my life to build video game. We build like a lot of shit and we build like some good game, you know, and like we spend so much time to try to understand how we can grab the people. They're not like something like a mechanic and like automatically to say like this is fun. So like the reality is like we just need more time to see like what can work and what can't work. And yeah, this is for me.
I think there is one thing that some companies are also getting wrong. So cross the edging is the good example, Web3 native mechanics and stuff like that, onboarding people that are actually not from Web3 with transparent stuff. This is great. But you do have another side of it, which is more like people bringing the worst Web2 mechanics from free-to-play games where you actually click a button and you need to wait 8 hours to do the next stuff. And then you might have to pay, I don't know, a few dollars to do something else to accelerate it, which is fine on a free game on your iPhone. But when you're actually playing a game that requires you to hold an NFT that costs thousands of dollars to do, and you're in front of a game that is just the worst part of Web2, you're like, it's kind of desperate. And yes, again, this is not fun, right? So it's pretty hard to find a balance. And of course, it can be done overnight. There is a lot of fine tuning. And it's good that we see companies that are very transparent and responsive. It's something that is going more and more. We can see there is a great example that happened 2 weeks ago. The Faraway company, basically they published a public Trello of all the updates they are working on, at least the ones that are announced in public for the community. So you have something to refer to. This is where we are today. This is where we are going in the future. And this is great for the users and for the players.
No, you're right. I think transparency is extremely important to iterate because everybody is kind of new in the area and we need to be very humble on how we build things. And the second thing that I totally agree with Mo is that being Web 2.5 in an acquisition way is just the worst thing you can do because you're too crypto for the Web 2 and you're not enough crypto for the Web 3. So it's just the worst in terms of acquisition. And it's funny enough because when I'm saying that, and when I look back at the last 3 years, a lot of the builders wanted to create a mass market game. And actually, today, all those guys, they're building a Web3 game. So they understood that it was not that easy as to say it to target the Web 2, and they are now focusing on the Web 3. But then the question that leads to that is, then we're all fighting for the same pie. How do we make it grow?
You want to take it?
Yeah, if you'd attended my session this morning on network effects, you'd have the answer to that. But no, all jokes aside, I think it comes down to mindset. And on mindset, I want to quickly touch on something Sami said and you said as well. We have an inherent fear of failure, but in a space that's growing like this, we shouldn't be afraid of failing. We're an innovative space and we need failure to help us become more resilient, but also it's important to know what works, but what doesn't work. And what works for one community may not work for another community. So I feel failure is something we have to take in our stride. And if it's a lesson learned, then you haven't failed, you've learned. So mindset is super important. But then to your point of this, Web3 is very tribal. And there are some very positive things to come out of that, but there's also negative effects. And it comes back down to mindset. If I have a red ocean mindset where everyone is competition, then you're right. It's a very small pond and we're all fighting for market share, but we're fighting for market share of nothing. It's not even a $3 trillion industry as of yet. So what are we actually fighting over? And that's where the blue ocean mindset comes in, which is how can we get the right network effects, the right positive feedback loops in place so we can grow together. it's fine having a smaller slice of a bigger pie because then everyone wins. And I feel the founders that get that collaborate with other ecosystems really well. And we see that it's a, how can I put it? It's net positive to that ecosystem and to those holders. But if you have a zero-sum approach, which is very red ocean, then someone has to win, which means someone has to lose. And that's the reason why we have a lot of people in Web 2 looking in, being like, that's a scam, because they came in at the top, they lost, they were exit liquidity for people in the space. And now they're like, we've had a bad experience. The technology isn't bad. The technology is really good. It's the way we've interacted with the technology hasn't been the best. And when I say we, there's been some amazing actors in the space, but there's also, it attracts a lot of the wrong type of actor who are looking for a quick buck. And we see it cycle in, cycle out. Those who are very good at marketing will raise a shit ton of money. It's getting harder now, but in like ICOs in 2017, 2018, the whole NFT boom in 2022, like these were the Kickstart 2 cycles, and it wasn't necessarily the best projects with the best teams, and we can argue what best means. That raised the funds that were needed. Some did, but the majority of the projects that did raise funds had really good marketing, and it was vaporware in the back end. So it was fueled on hype. Now, anything that isn't sustainable isn't going to last, and hype isn't sustainable. There's only so much time, and time equates to money in this space. There's only so much time you can keep people's attention on an ecosystem if there's no underlying product to act as retention. We've cracked activation in Web3. What we're struggling with is retention, because there are so many opportunities to make money right now through the different social farming campaigns, airdrops, and so on and so forth. So
we'll get back on the grid. We'll get back on the grid. But maybe, guys, you want to share something?
What say more, you know, it's like you have a kind of a Damocles sword. And the reality is, like, when you talk about cycle, it's like your game will boom, you know, when the cycle will be great. And we've seen it, you know, in 2021. But the thing is, what's going to happen, you know, in 2022, 2023? So what? The founder will make money just for 2 years, and then after, like, they disappear, or maybe just for one cycle. It can't be sustainable. And like the reality is, like, I never seen for now, you know, like the right, you know, solution. And I think it's like many part of solution. And I'm pretty sure that with those iteration, step by step, we're going to be able, you know, to find the solution. Because what is different, you know, from the Web 2 and the Web 3, it's this Wagami, like this collaboration where like founder are talking together, sharing, you know, the failure, sharing, you know, like the problem. And like that, you will never see it in Web 2. I spent like 14 years of my life, you know, to build game close to Ubisoft, close to Square Enix, close to Bandai, believe me or not. But like they never, ever, ever share with me their failure. Never. Like I say, yeah, everything is good, everything is okay, you know. Like we're talking, like we try to be transparent and explain to everyone that, you know, it's not easy. It's pretty complicated because it's like tendence, and we are not able, you know, to know exactly what's going to happen. Like when you see like who can bet, you know, on the meme coin, who can bet, you know, on what's going to happen, you know, like the tap to earn, or like the new way, you know, to onboard the Web3. And I think that we're going to be like closer to find like maybe like a global solution.
I agree on that. I just wanted to touch base on the responsibility side of it. The fact that it's okay to fail, but the stakes are not the same that when you're publishing a game on the Switch that is €5 and actually it's a shitty game. Okay, I think you're not going to follow the creators on Twitter and insult it like in Web3. Because it's not like, okay, it's just €5 on my Switch. It's not like 2,000 on Ethereum and I spend time and months being a community member and failure. So failure is okay, but I think there is a lack of ownership in the failure. And this is very important because you are dealing with humans. We are dealing with humans that are themselves dealing with real money. And I have this conversation a lot with a lot of different profiles. Some of them are in crypto for 10 years. To them, it's not even real money because they have so much that they actually, you know, they can just
lost the value of money.
Exactly. The value kind of disappeared. And on the side, you said like, you know, the game of the hot potato, the people that came at the top, that invested their own fiat money, injected their own fiat money in the thing. They deserve founders that are owning their failures and not just like, my bad, it didn't work this time. Maybe we'll do better next time. I think it's something that is very important. And the bear market kind of helps actually wash off these bad people with bad intentions. And that's the good thing about bear market, I guess. Yeah, I will be cleansed.
Thanks for sharing those insights on the kind of first layer of monetization when you're building and launching a game. Let's focus on the second bullet point when I broke down royalties. What's the story with royalties? Where do we stand? Do you think it was one of the biggest value proposition of Web3 gaming? Where do we stand?
I think it's an important one, but it can't be one that we rely on. So if you're just relying on secondary market royalties to feed the treasury, it's not enough. What we really need to understand are the users within the ecosystem, and what if it's a game, what are they happy to spend money on? What do the interactions look like? And it's in understanding those interactions and the personas that you can understand what the on-chain transactions of those interactions begin to look like. So there will be learnings from one game or one ecosystem to another, but really each one has to be done based on the value that community brings. This is more on the Web3 side than on the Web2 side, because earlier I said you need two different monetization strategies. Web2 is conventional. Web3 really depends on, again, if we have a very degen community, they're going to want something fast-paced that's degen to fit in with that culture. If you give them something that's governance-related, maybe that's not exciting for them. Similar going into a culture where it's very governance-heavy and people like to have discussions, and telling them, let's do something that's degen, it's not going to rub off in the right way. So it's understanding who your community is and also speaking with your community to understand where the monetization can then come in from. And the monetization isn't one way. We tend to think of value in dollar signs, which I think is the wrong way to think about it. Value is so much more than just the underlying fiat value or Bitcoin or Ethereum value. Because if I'm creating content for free about a project, I'm adding value to that ecosystem because now more people can learn about it. But how do you monetize that? And how can you begin to layer in what this actually means? And for me, everything eventually leads back to some form of DAO or decentralized entity where co-owners or community members who are co-owners in the ecosystem get to actually have a say and have a voice in what the next steps are.
I like the end of your speech, like entering the DAOs, right? I think DAOs can play an important role there in terms of creators' economy. Actually, helping the creators from different communities, different platforms, different blockchain actually flourish. And we have thousands of content creators that are amazing, but they can't rely on Twitter to actually get monetized. And this is sad. So that's why programs to monetize, to help them achieve their goal is great and is needed to help them flourish and in a sustainable way. And this is what we need. And that we're also working, and many DAOs are working on it. I agree on the fact that if your business plan relies on royalties, you're kind of snapped. I mean, it happened for many companies over the past few years. But I'm excited about the fact that we are seeing more and more tools that are actually guaranteeing these royalties to the companies, to the creators, to the players. But guaranteeing these royalties is one thing. If no one wants to play, if no one wants to buy the assets of your game, the cards of your game, or things like that, royalties will be useless in any ways. So what we see is basically companies coming and say, let's do another mint in detriment of the company, of the players. And this is also bad. So it's important to understand your target audience, but it's important to understand that you can't cater to everyone. Not everyone will be happy. The degen on one side, fast-paced action and all. The collectors, the one that I identify most with, like, laid back, chill. I mean, I think the first post of spending I spend on a game are cosmetics. Like, really cosmetics. I'm bad at games. Like, I know that I will never be competitive. So I'm just having fun and chilling and collecting. And that's the best thing.
So saying royalties, saying your monetization should not be based on royalties, obviously. But it's not the answer I'm expecting. Like, it's a revenue.
Tell us the answer before if you want.
No. But what I think could be valuable for the audience is to understand, is there a way to enforce royalties on EVM or being on an L2 where you can enforce that? or should we forget about royalties?
I don't think we should forget, but I think we should incentivize it. Take the example of a game. You can have, I don't know, some sort of bonuses, even if you don't actually block to a certain marketplace and stuff. You can incentivize people to trade with royalties on in exchange of something like, oh, you will get these cosmetics, can be a cosmetic, this boost, these specific cards, this limited edition stuff. You can give something to them for like, okay, you're helping me with the royalties, trading the right way. I'm actually going to reward you in some sort. And I think that's a model that can be helpful.
I will try to give you like one example with some numbers to help you to understand like what can be and what is the possible problem to come. For us, we start like to sell cards like in the secondary market via IMX, Immutable X. So like it's on a layer 2, and we charge fees for everyone that's doing secondary market. We made in 1 year 20 million in volume with like more or less 400,000 trade. Let's say like it's around 1,000 trade per day. And if you take the amount on the year, it's an amount. The problem is, if you take a game like Hearthstone, the card gaming, or Marvel Snap, or whatever the game, the asset is not yours. When you're gonna start like a new season, you will start to buy cards and restart from the beginning. That means that the company generates always money for the new collection. But what about us? Since we created asset NFT that are not useless, but it has to be useful. Otherwise, it makes no sense. So you have to understand that you have to put it on the equation, and step by step, people will buy less cards because they don't need to have much more cards, even if you created a new collection or whatever you want. So in this mechanic, what's going to happen? You will have less and less sale because people will have the cards, or you're going to be able, to grab much more new people and enough to being able, to have this amount of trading going higher and higher. So it's like, a marathon to push the people, to come inside your game and like to sell the card and like to push them to go into the secondary market. So this is the thing that's pretty new for us. And we have like what, 1.5 years, of experience of our marketplace. And we need like to see maybe after 2 years to start and to being able, to have like a real numbers and like to see exactly what's happened. Is it like working, or like we have a limit of we can't go upper than that?
Thanks for the insights, guys. So we've jumped into the launch monetization, the royalties, so the ongoing potential monetization, but there is another part, the in-game transactions. So this is supposed to be core to your product and is supposed to scale your revenues. I see two problems. The first is that most of the games that I'm seeing the statistics from, they kind of get to a specific ceiling around 25K daily active users. How can we get through this roof? That's my first question. Because that's not enough to make the company sustainable. And two, most of the projects, they have a token. To give utility to their token, basically the in-game transactions are within their token. So they are making revenue with their tokens, and then they're actually not really incentivized on selling them on the market because it penalizes the player. So how to balance the token revenue and the circulating supply, basically?
So I think on the first one, I don't think that's entirely true. You can have a successful ecosystem with 20 or 25,000 users, but it's understanding the value that those users bring to the ecosystem and how we want that to scale and grow. Because if each of these users are worth 1 million, then you have 25 million within there. So it's highly unlikely, but it's still a possibility. I think to the second point around, what was the second point again? Sorry.
So getting token revenue, and then if your treasury is in token, you have to pay salaries. So
I love utility, but I think there's a big problem. Over 90% of the space now is speculation. Before it was higher, you can argue it was 98, 97%, or maybe at 90% speculation. There are projects who have utility, but the majority of asset holders don't care about the utility. They care about the ROI. They care about the exit point, which defeats then the purpose of a token if the only reason for the existence is as a medium of, not even medium of exchange, is as a return on investment versus a utility token, a governance token. So I feel we're at fault as a collective within the space because this is the behavior we've incentivized, is running after something that has value, so I can cash out that value into fiat, into Ethereum, into Sol, into Bitcoin, into another underlying asset, and it turns into a casino where it's just, where am I putting money to have more money, have more crypto? That's a big problem that we have, because a lot of the users that we're onboarding are not long-term users. They're not viable. There's no sustainability there. We're attracting the wrong user type for the wrong reasons. We've seen a lot of social farming. How many of us have been on Twitter and seen our timeline sort of spammed with all of these different token tickers? Okay, a few of us. It's quite annoying, isn't it? Like, I want to read through good content on Twitter. But then we ask the question, well, why are projects doing this? Or projects need to hit a certain number of metrics to get listed on a good exchange. So they go through the social farming, they hit the metrics, they tell to the exchange, we have 100,000 followers, we've done this, we've done that, can you now list us? And the exchange is, okay, we'll now list you. So it creates a negative feedback loop. And because that feedback loop is negative, it's extractive. Or the people it's attracting is extractive. So we don't get retention. So back to one of the earlier points I was making. So I feel there's a flaw in the model at heart versus looking at how we can grow an ecosystem where there can be monetization over the long term. And it's normally the short-term gains are what projects go for, because you need to fundraise, you need to have some form of income coming in to sustain growth, but it's at the expense of a genuine long-term economy that can be sustainable.
Yeah, nothing to add on that.
Sami, for example, on your side, you have the CTA token. What is utility? Do you generate revenue in CTA? And how do you pay your salaries with this CTA token revenue?
Here we go. The CTA token, is the basis of our ecosystem. Whatever you want to do, you need to use a CTA token. If, for example, you want to mint a card, you have to pay $1, but with a CTA token. If you want to buy a card into the marketplace, you have to spend USDT, for example, but it's going to be converted in CTA token. If you want, absolutely everything is made in game is using CTA token. Something is very different in our game. It's like you're not going to have any kind of airdrop. You can't win the CTA token. And if you stake it, I'm not going to give you CTA token, but I will give you something else. We created a model where when you stake CTA token, you can receive every week some card called special rare. The only way to get them is to stake token. 1,500, 3,000, 6,000, whatever the amount. The thing is, like, since the secondary market is pretty high and people need the card and we need to merge those cards together, people are always buying, those cards. So the only way is to stake the CTA token. It makes something sustainable. And I think that the utility is like the key of the success. I will go deeper. The thing very amazing in Cross the Ages, it's not a game. It's a whole IP. So we start with a book, like the book is in physical now. We have it in many languages. We have movie animation. We have like a partnership that we made with many other games. And we have a second game called Arise that will be released in September. Action RPG, like AAA game, very high quality. And it's not niche anymore. We start with a niche game, like card gaming is like 4% of the player, 3% maybe. But like this one will reach a lot of people. Why I explain you that? Imagine that all your assets from the TCG, you can bring them into like the second game. First, it will give like more value. And when you use the CTA token, you will be able, to have something sustainable for all the ecosystem. That means that we're going to create a new game and a new game and a new game. And every time we created a game, we're using the same CTA token and we're using the same NFT to give the way for the people, to don't lose the experience and allow the people that want to exit to sell the assets and to have like more and more user. Like on the question, how we're going to be able to reach more people is to create a new kind of experience. And one day we will be able to have like a huge, huge experience to being able to grab much more people. And like this, we can only do it if you build a foundation and if you build something like an IP, like a new kind of Harry Potter or Game of Thrones, something that's really sustainable. So the utility for us is like the basis. And we tried, to create a link between the real and the virtual. So every time that you have some assets for Cross the Ages, you can have like a digital asset from Web2. So like the 40 million by like the digital card, you will have them like NFT and you can have them in physical. So it's always, like different experience to being able to grab more and more people. And like, yes, the utility of the CTA token is on the middle. It's like the angular stone of our project and everything is around the CTA token.
Thank you, guys. Let's get into the last phase of the roundtable. I called it the sacrilege. So is it a sacrilege for you to talk about data monetization of your in-game customers in a Web3 game?
The beauty of Web3 is everyone has ownership. So this is actually quite an easy question. It should then be down to you as a member of an ecosystem or as a member of a game as to what data you want to share. And then you're being compensated for that data. So for me, we have the tools available to do that. So I don't think it's a sacrilege as long as there's consensus. Is
it what Mochaverse is trying to do?
I think what Mochaverse is trying to do is slightly different. It's more leveraging the network effects of the different portfolio companies that are there to say, listen, we have all of these different companies, we have all of this different user base. And what you can do in a standard loyalty point program is you will pay for an activation where we will incentivize the user base that exists to come and play your game, for example. And then it acts as a user acquisition funnel there. And based on the leveling or based on what the clear goals you have to hit, there is a reward on the other side.
Two things. I was talking about Mocha ID actually. Okay. And two, I've seen, most of the project, they promise that if there is data monetization, etc., you're owning, redistributing, blah, blah, blah. The problem that I've seen is that actually it's a little bit naive because they don't give all the rights to the NFT owner. So what they can monetize is actually very limited. So how can we...
I think this is the beauty of it. And going back to the point of mindset earlier, there is no perfect solution that exists right now. And that's why we have to keep trying and finding ways that work. Why do they work? What are the circumstances? Why has something not worked? Because it might be an idea that didn't work here, might work somewhere else because there was a specific blocker there. So just it's doing more research, if you like. We like to do a lot of theoretical and applied. If you like, my background's in mathematics, so there's a lot of the theory side of things, but also the practical application side. And it's how do you marry both? Because the theory alone isn't enough. The data in general in the space isn't clean data. It's very assumption based. But once you have a live token economy, it becomes easier to pull that data because you understand exactly how your community members or user base are acting. And then you can optimize what that monetization looks like. And then that's rewarded with the community again. So I think we're in a phase where there's a lot of projects that are nearly there, but not just yet.
Dim, do you think DAOs can be guarants of this monetization, of the way it is done?
Should they? That's also the question. Should they be the garant of this monetization? I don't think so. I don't think so in a sense that it would require to have like an army to preserve this kind of stuff. A lot of, I don't know if it will fall under like working groups, special council. Do we really want to have another 10,000 special councils in Web3? Another 10,000 groups? It's pretty odd. But what the DAOs can do is actually give the tools to the creators, to the builders, to achieve this, and to make sure that they align the incentives with the creators, to make sure, or at least to prevent the bad use of the data.
Sami, can you give us a little bit more on your view on this data monetization?
Too many mics.
In our case, we didn't do that. Yeah. So we never, share like information from the players, because like we give like the opportunity, for the player, to be completely owner of the assets, and like it's also like a way of transparency. Like I don't feel myself, like to sell like the data of my players. It's not my business model, and like this is not like what we want to do. And in our case, like since people have the wallet and like it's completely private, it's not the point for us.
All right. Is it a sacrilege to add some ads in your game?
Yes, especially when the user paid a lot of money to be able to play these games. But I wouldn't be mad at Sami if actually in his card game that I'm really bad at, by the way, there will be an ad to go to, I don't know, a Monster Tamer game that I can actually use the same NFTs to play, because I would be like, oh, maybe I will perform better there.
That's a good point.
Ads, I do think it's a sacrilege.
Sacrilege, sacrilege. Next question.
I agree, it is a sacrilege. But if there's a free-to-play element, and then users who don't own assets, can they see ads? 100% they can as well.
All right. Third sacrilege. So in Web2 games, you pay to play the games. Some of the narrative was to say, now in Web3, you don't pay the games, you pay the assets to play the game. But is it a sacrilege if we would talk a Web3 game that is payable or in the form even of a subscription-based model?
Do we pay to play the Fortnite?
No, but Fortnite is one.
Yeah, but I mean that, you know, like I think like we have like a long run of a gaming, like a free gaming, you know, free to play that, you know, come like since 2008, and then step by step, you know, you have like a more model. I think that we don't have like the kind of level of game that you can say you have to pay for the game. But the thing is, like, people are spending like €1,000, you know, to onboard the game. So you're gonna ask them what to pay, like on top of that, like 50, 60 bucks. It makes no sense. And like for now, you know, the experience are not on console. That means that since we don't have the solution to put the wallets, you know, inside Nintendo, Sony, or Xbox, this can't be a question. Maybe, you know, tomorrow when publisher will allow, you know, that and make that possible, it will be a game changer. But for now, you know, having like some game, you know, payable on mobile, I think that's most of the game are free, like Clash of Clans, like Marvel Snap, like absolutely all the experience are free. And I don't think for now we have like a kind of game able to say that you have to pay 60 bucks to have my game. I think this is like personal.
All right, so guys, any a subscription-based model?
I think I like high level a lot because it allows us to wrap our thinking to something specific. And
World of Warcraft was a subscription-based
Yeah.
and this community.
no, but it's coming to that. And I think what's super important is understanding where we're at as a space. How many of us remember 3 years ago or 4 years ago when Facebook brought out WhatsApp? How many of us remember that? Quick, how many of us thought our data is not safe? Let's download Signal or let's download Telegram. How many of us still use WhatsApp today? And that's exactly some of the challenges that we have in the space, that we haven't evolved. Us as stakeholders in the space, we're still using pre-existing Web2 technologies when we have Web3 technologies, maybe that are not as sexy, if you like, or as not as from a UI UX perspective, but there are other options there, but they haven't hit critical mass. So we continue to use the pre-existing aspects. So we still have some way to go.
I was wondering if I asked the last question or no. No, but I wanted to come back on the greed aspect of Web3 games. What are your advice to founders to try to control their supply and try to minimize the attracting greed, basically?
Understand who your audience is and what you're rewarding them for. If you're rewarding them for shilling you on Twitter, they're probably going to dump. If you're rewarding them like the Pixels activation was really good, because for you to get the airdrop, you had to actually play the game. And what happened was there was a community layer on top. So I'm in the game, I have my NFT, and I might be able to see Dim with his NFT in the game. And there's a chat box functionality in addition to the different experiences. So it became sticky. So when the token airdrop happened, you airdropped it to people who are genuinely interacting within that ecosystem, not someone creating a bot farm of Twitter profiles, spamming the timeline to get a nice airdrop. So really study your audience, understand the audience you want, and then reward the right audience for the right actions that you want.
Sami, Dim, you want to add something?
I don't know. I would say maybe don't make your user do stuff that you wouldn't like your kids to do. Would you like to see your kids grinding on Twitter, like posting shit all day long to get $3? No, you would give them the money. So maybe, yeah, try to gather, come with a great tokenomics, spend more time on tokenomics. This is important. And in 2024, we still see shitty tokenomics, and this is very sad.
I just want to add one more thing. The token, once it's live, it needs its own set of live ops. It can't just be the token is live. It will do its own thing. My wife hates it when I use this analogy. It's like having a baby. Once you have the baby, you can't put it on the side. We're like, I'll tend to you in 3 months' time. Once the cot is ready and once we have the house ready. No. As soon as that baby is there, you're tending to that baby. You're checking if it's breathing during the night. Your token is exactly the same thing. You cannot launch a token or any digital asset where there's financial value involved and expect it to be okay without you looking after it. So
responsibilities.
Actually, you know, if I'm based off what you said, and that project is like 90% of chill, we are all trapped. For now, like this is like I think that we need to wait like some more iteration and like give like more value, you know, for the utility. And like maybe, you know, when the day we're gonna be like 50-50, it will make sense. But like the reality is like everything you're gonna give for free will be dumped. And like this is horrible because this is a cycle, and like this is everyone try to do because like they need to have user acquisition, because like the thing is if you don't do that, they're not gonna be listed. And like it's like a snake problem. We have like always the same problem, and like we're not able, you know, to go get out from that. And I really hope that soon we're gonna be able, you know, to find like a kind of solution. But like for now, I really don't know how to say.
Okay. Twitter actually increased the privacy and actually are not allowing as much social chilling as it used to be in a few months back. So that's actually a step in the right direction.
Yes, I have a few questions for you, Sami. So do you see your game, Cross the Ages, as a pay to win? This is the first question. And the next one is when it comes to get more daily user active player, and you need to be on Twitch, you need to have your games being watched by people, having viewers. So you also need to be on the esports scene. So how do you feel with the esports and your game, and how do you deal with the fact that gamers today, they are very scared on Twitch to get in crypto games because of all the things happened in the past years?
Okay, I will try to answer one by one for the three questions. For the first question is about, is it like play to win? The play to win, in fact, you know, the thing very interesting in Cross the Ages is if you have a lot of money, you're not going to win. The thing very interesting is you have your deck with 30 cards and you have a number, a total of points is like 15,000. The card is between 400 to 750. And like whatever your money, you can't go up to the 15K. I'll give you an example. We organize every year the World Championship. We made that, so it's going to answer for the second question. The eSport part is very important. So we made this event in south of France, super proud to do that in Marseille, like really happy, you know, like to bring people. 2,000 people come for the last event. 2,000 is completely insane, you know, for like an event that it's not a Web3, not Web2, not really eSports, but like 2,000 people come, 30 nationality. The winner is Japanese. The deck of this guy is like maybe 180. Like the finalist in front of him, he spent maybe, I don't know, 30,000, you know, to have like a lot of very amazing card. So how, you know, someone spend like less than $200, win a cash price of 100K in front of someone else? The thing interesting, you know, on the card gaming, it's like a lot of strategy. If you know a little bit on Magic the Gathering, if you know a little bit on Lorcana, Yu-Gi-Oh, Flesh and Blood, whatever, it's always like a strategy point. Cross the Ages is a close to chess, Go, board gaming with a new vertical and a new way. For the second thing is about like the Twitch channel and how, you know, we're going to be able to grab more and more people. First of all, you know, we had to get enough retention to being able, you know, to push. Every game, if you've seen like many games like released, it's you have the correlation about what you're gonna spend with marketing to onboard people, and like this is exactly the point as Mo was explaining, that if you put 20 million, you know, you will have like more user. It's true. The thing is when you're gonna stop to pay, it's gonna disappear. Quick example: Marvel Snap. Who know Marvel Snap here? Some people know Marvel Snap. It's a card gaming, like super famous. Ben Broad, like it's the designer from Hearthstone, work on this project. They spend 4.5 years to develop this game, plus 1 year of polish. The game was like the top one everywhere. It was maybe for 6 months, and then like the game disappeared off the system. Why? It's because they didn't inject, you know, the money. So when we're gonna be able, you know, to have something with the good retention, we're gonna push it to being able to have more and more user. The thing is, are we sure that this card gaming will be like the perfect match? We think that when we're gonna have like the second experience called Arise, like really made, you know, for the competition, we're going to be able, you know, to have more and more statistics. And since this is like a bridge between the different game, you're going to come from the TCG and like going like the trading card game to go, directly to the action RPG and like to go to the next game that we're going to develop. So I think that on this way, we're going to be able, to have something sustainable, being able, to grab more and more people. And when you have the incentive, doing competition, doing esport, giving 100,000 cash, spending, the ticket for the best 64 player in the world, bring them to your country and give more and more, it takes time. League of Legends, all those games take almost 10 years. We expect to do that in 5 years, but we have to be patient.
On those, well, Jim, you want to conclude?
Oh no, I think you summed it well. Align incentives between
Exactly.
the creators and the players.
Guys, thank you very much for those insights. It was very rich and no bullshit. So thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed. And please give me
Thanks, everyone.
a round of applause.